starting a little late here, but we had some technical difficulties. So sorry about that. But I'm really excited to have Lori Raymond here. She is the president and CEO of Tourmaline Enterprises. I really hope I pronounced that right, Lori. But thank you for coming and joining me on Mavens of Manufacturing. Did I pronounce the company right?
Thanks, Meaghan. Some people pronounce it Tourmaline, it's Tourmaline.
Oh,
Either way.
gotcha.
I don't think
Gotcha.
there's a wrong way, to be honest.
Well, if anyone is joining us today, please drop your name in the comments and let us know where you're tuning in from today. I'm really excited about this conversation just because Lori has really demonstrated, getting things done, and when things go bad, she makes them great, and just her business leadership is amazing. And we're also going to be talking about industrial coding and marking. I always want to say marketing when I talk really fast. But we're going to be talking about that, which is something that I was not very familiar with until I met you. So really excited to learn about that. Oh, we already have people coming in. We have Hank. Hi, Hank. Thank you. The girls are at home today. So Hank has 2 daughters, and he calls them the junior board of directors.
I love
Hank,
that.
you can always replay this for them when you see him again. So make sure you do that. And then we have Justin here. And then we have my longtime friend, Eric Sorensen, who I've not heard from in a long time. Thank you, Eric, for joining us today. I really appreciate it. Eric and I used to work together a long time ago in Madison, Wisconsin. So super excited to have him here today. But Lori, I want to learn more about you. So can you give us a little background information about yourself and tell us the story of how you entered into engineering and manufacturing and got to the place you are today?
I don't think we have enough time, but I'll try to give you the sort of nutshell version, right? So I really got into manufacturing, oh my gosh, years and years and years ago, back in the 80s. I actually worked for a chemical manufacturing company.
Okay.
And at that time was just so fascinated by manufacturing in general, right? And then I took a diversion away from that, and I was a headhunter. I worked as a headhunter for almost 20 years, and placed architects and engineers of all industries for a long time. Ended up placing um, more in the architectural and civil engineering for a while. And
Okay.
then in 2008, we know what happened with architecture and civil engineering, when the housing market crashed. And at that time, I was just sort of like lost. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
And my husband at the time said, "Look, I've wanted you to work with me forever. Why don't you come and work in coding and marking?" And I, of course, knew what he was doing because he'd been in the industry since '97. So I knew
Mm-hmm.
exactly what he was doing. And I said, "Sure, what can I do?" And he said, "Do what you do best, sell printers, sell ink." So I kind of came on board with that, just that wide-eyed, big vision of I can go sell ink and printers. Let me figure this out. And for 3 years, all I did was handle the ink side of things, which really gave me the education of what's the purpose of coding and marking? Why does ink matter? Why do you
Mm-hmm.
put it on a product? And I just absolutely fell in love with the industry because it was so different and so unique. And I always say that we're kind of in an invisible industry, right? Our printers actually print date codes and lot codes and expiration date. And when people ask me, well, what do you mean? I say, well, what's the first thing you do when you grab something from the dairy cabinet at the at the grocery store? What's the first thing you do? Well, you pick it up and you look at the expiration date, right? And if
Mm-hmm.
it's too soon, you put it back on the shelf and you reach all the way back and you get the fresher, right? Nobody even thinks about how that date code got there, right? But
Right.
how it got there was the printers that we manufacture and distribute print those date codes on there. We don't do the printing. So that's the real unique thing. People get confused is they think we're printers, and we're not printers. We manufacture and distribute printers. So
Gotcha.
so that's how I got into it, and I was in the industry for 7 years, loving it. We are an original equipment manufacturer, partner of HP, Specialty
Okay.
Printing Division. So I'm very familiar with the HP world, from a specialty printing division side. And and then unfortunately, my husband got very, very sick and was diagnosed with cancer and passed away in 3 months.
I'm
And
sorry to hear that.
oh, thank you. That was back in 2015, right at the very beginning of 2015. And so I had customers and I had
Hmm.
3 employees, and I was like, well, what do I do? Do I keep going forward? What do I do with the company? And I don't know how much of that story you want me to get into, but I,
Yeah, I mean, I would love to ask you like what inspired you to keep going with the company because I don't know, losing a husband and then having all this other stuff going on, like that had to be a hard decision to make to say, I'm going to keep going. But one of the things I did want to comment on is you mentioned earlier that you were an invisible industry. And this is why I love having these conversations because when I think of printing, I don't necessarily think anything industrial. If I'm thinking about printing and manufacturing, it usually my brain usually goes to additive manufacturing or 3D printing. So when you're
sure,
printing objects, but
sure,
then printing, because I'm a writer, I'm thinking about the printers that I have at home to print out
right.
documents and not the codes or the expiration dates on products. So I'm really happy to have this conversation with you because it is a different world and we're trying to make the opportunities that are available in this sector less invisible so that we can attract the next generation. So again, I'm really thankful for you coming here and sharing your story. But yeah, how did you make that decision to keep going with the company? Because when we talked before, you kind of insinuated that it wasn't like in the best of like condition, like there was a lot of paperwork or something that you had to go through and you found some things out that
Yeah, yeah.
probably would have deterred other people to make a different decision than you. So what inspired you to just keep going?
So yeah, so what Megan is referring to for those who are listening is that, I found out within 3 weeks that the company was not even solvent, right? That
So scary.
well, yeah, we had hundreds of customers, we had great relationships with our vendors,
Hmm.
and we weren't making any money. And I kept scratching my head going, how could this be? How could this happen? Not only am I dealing with the loss of my husband, I'm looking at this business going, is this in shambles? Or, how am I gonna, do I pack it up and become a barista somewhere and serve coffee and call it a day? Or, I just have always had, and I've always had a very entrepreneurial spirit. So I said, you know what? I know what his dream was, and I know that I can bring that to fruition. I know I can turn this ship around. And
That's awesome.
so I just dug my heels in and forced myself to learn every aspect of the business. Where before I would ask him, when are you going to teach me sort of the back end of the business? And he'd say, oh, just go do what you do best. Go sell. Go sell.
It sounds like he was trying to hide the back end of the business.
Yeah, and I always say I'm kind of the recipient of unintended consequences, or maybe they were intended. I don't know. But to keep myself sane, I just said, it's important for me to honor his memory and do my very level best to push forward. How can I do that? So I pulled myself together and I said, at the time, because I'm very transparent, it's
Hmm.
something that I really believe in, as far as, as a person and in business. But at the time, I was 57 years old. And I was like, most of my friends were talking about how they were going to retire and when they were going to retire. And I'm thinking, how am I going to turn this business around and grow it? And the funny thing is 8 years later, we're bigger than ever. Our vision is bigger than ever because I'm a visionary. So my title is really not president of the company, it's CVO. I'm the vision officer. I'm the
Chief
corporate vision
Vision.
officer,
That's awesome.
and it's because I do have that big vision that we can be so much bigger and we can reach so much further than what we've done. We've grown 350% since he passed away. And yeah, I know I'm super
It's
excited
awesome.
about that. And I think that he would be really thrilled with what we have done, what I have done with this company. So it's not, the story isn't even so much about that. It's really about what I love now is that being a woman in manufacturing, I
Hmm.
love talking to other women in manufacturing and find out what drives you into this, what makes you tick. I mean, I'm a mother, I'm a grandmother. I think I shared with you before that I have two little ones that are just now
Yep.
9 and 7, my grandsons, and my oldest daughter is our accounting manager, and they're homeschooled, and they homeschool in my office 2 days a week or two
That's
half days.
awesome.
And all these over here, my oldest grandson was putting together yesterday. Those are for trade show gifts that we're giving out at the trade show. And at Pack Expo, for those who are listening, Pack Expo is this coming week, the
Yep.
11th through the 13th in Las Vegas. And we exhibit at the show, have exhibited at this show for 18 years. So this year is no different, but we've grown from 3 employees to 13 employees, and we're about to hire two more. So that's pretty exciting. And, I'm a big believer in giving back to that next generation. So I'm really working hard to, with my grandsons, teach them the values of a hard day's work and
Hmm.
an honest day's pay. And so he gets paid for this out of my pocket. I never pay for it out of the company pocket because I never want anybody to say I have child labor working here because I don't. But I do. I will always incentivize them to help out when they're here, and they'll build boxes. They'll do those kinds of things, and I'll pay them like 10 cents a box, and then they'll come and tell me how many boxes they put together. Then I ask them, okay, how much do I owe you? And they have to do the math, and they're learning phenomenal lessons here.
But
And
I think that's such a cool idea because not only are they learning how to make something with their hands, but you're also teaching them that math portion of it, which, by the way, I suck at. But
yeah,
it's good because they're learning those soft skills. They're learning how to work well with other people. And at the same time, they're learning about the business that you work so hard to bring to fruition. Like, it's just really cool because what once was your husband's legacy is actually turning into your own, and then
yeah,
maybe someday your grandchildren will want to be a part of it or take over, like who knows. So it's super
yeah.
cool how you're tying it all together.
And
Like,
I
that's
hope,
awesome.
I hope there is that pathway forward for them. My oldest grandson is 15. I don't think he has any interest in it whatsoever. But the one that just moved on from kindergarten into first grade, at his little kindergarten ceremony, they had up on this reader board, it said, Austin Olson, I want to be when I grow up. And he said, an engineer. I was like
That's
so
cool.
excited about that because
Yeah.
I tell the kids everything you touch in life is manufactured somewhere.
Hmm.
Even the inside of the pen, even the cap of the pen, the ink, it all is manufactured somewhere. Somebody has to put that together. Even
Yeah,
if it's a robot, it has to be put together. But somebody has to think that idea up first. So
absolutely.
I love those
That's really
messages for them, right?
That's really cool. Well, we have some more comments. We have Penny, who's on the road with shoddy connection, but listening. There's
Okay.
always the replay too on demand. And then Mary, hi, all excited to make my first Mavens of Manufacturing, first of many, clearly. Mary, thank you. I'm glad that you're here. I hope you like the show and you return. Anybody that wants to catch the replay too, you can subscribe to the YouTube channel, Mavens of Manufacturing YouTube channel, and catch all of the on demand versions. Vince, hello, thank you for coming. And then she said, absolutely saw Meaghan's content and was getting manufacturing FOMO. That's funny. And then Penny said she can relate. I sold copy machine ink phone number of years before college. We have a LinkedIn user. I'm guessing it's Hallie, maybe. Admire the visionary in you. That Penny's comment repeated. And then Hank says, love this story. We homeschool the junior board of
I
directors.
love
And
that.
and then we have Vanita. So refreshing to hear your podcast. You touch the human element of resilience. And that's what I try to do. Like, the reason why I fell in love with this sector so much is just because of the people. Like, that it's the salt of the earth people coming together and truly creating value for the rest of us in the world. And like you said, we take for granted the stuff that we have in our everyday lives because we don't know the like detail and the hard work and the process that goes into all of the products that we're using that make our lives easier. So I'm really glad that you brought that up. And I really want to get into industrial marking and coding
Let's
because
do.
there seems to be so many things involved with it. So, what are some things that people should know about industrial and like marking and coding? Why is it important? Why is it something that we need in manufacturing?
So glad you asked that because the more, and 8 years later, I'm always learning. We just put up a blog post this week that is so good because it's so down to the basics. It's like
Mm-hmm.
why barcodes? Why QR codes? Why are
Mm-hmm.
those important and what does all of that mean? So when you have a barcode and we know there's linear barcodes, right? I should have had some examples. I do. I can show you something right here. Here's a QR code. You see that little
Yep.
QR code up there? Well, if you look at a QR code, all those dots and spaces in it are always different on every product. And you wonder how that happens. Well, it's created so that every one of those little spots is tied to data
Mm-hmm.
about that product. So it could be, in this case, this is a slice of banana nut bread, and it has nutrition information in there. It has ingredient information. It has the date that it was produced, the date that it expires, all of that. And when you look at all the components of it, it's made with gluten-free flour, almond milk, sugar, light brown sugar, walnuts, applesauce, eggs, banana, vanilla extract. What if somebody, what if there's a recall on the eggs for some reason? How do you find
Oh.
that out? It's in that QR code. And so if there's a recall, let's not pick on eggs, but in this case, let's say it's the eggs, or it could be the almond milk or something, there's a recall on it. The manufacturer knows where all of their products have been placed, what grocery stores they've been placed in,
Mm-hmm.
and they will automatically send out a notification. There's a recall, pull all that off the shelves.
I didn't know all that information was in the QR code. That's pretty
Yes.
cool.
So when a recall happens, if that information wasn't there, how would they get the product back? They
Right.
just, there's like no, it's like, okay, there's manifestos, just like when you get on an airplane and you know where everybody sits.
Mm-hmm.
There's manifestos of where every step of the way that product has gone, what distribution company has it, what trucking company has it, all the way to the grocery store and then to us, the consumer. So it's really for track and trace purposes and being able to pull product or identify ingredients or components that are critical. And the smarter consumers get, because we consumers are getting very smart now, a lot of us are wanting to, like, in my own house, I only shop in a 50-mile radius, meaning I only buy beef or chicken or my poultry products that come from small farms within a 50-mile radius. Doesn't mean
I
that
love
I
that.
that I wouldn't buy something, let's say at Costco, that came from an egg factory and buy eggs there, but I my choice is to buy local. I'm just
Yeah.
that's just how I am because I work in consumer goods manufacturing. I want to support local manufacturers or local
Mhm.
producers, you know. But from a consumer standpoint, you want to know all that information, and the more educated the consumer gets, the more the manufacturer has to dial in and give the consumer the information they need, right?
I love that though. I'm a local shopper too, as much as I can be, just because we have such a great farmers market in my area too, and it's just better for your local communities if you shop local. So, and you know where the ingredients are coming from and what is either put in them or how they're maintained, and it's just better, you know.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
shop local, always shop local. Well, in terms of like, because you said you're in the consumer goods, but are there other industries that you touch? Like, I know that marketing coding can be on paper, it can be directly on the product, it can be on metal. Like, what are
Yeah.
some of the other details? Like, what does Tourmaline generally work for? Like,
Okay.
what products are you generally marking and coding?
Great question. We don't mark and code products. We just
Okay.
make the equipment that does,
Ah,
right?
nice to
So
mention that.
we bring in finished goods from
Okay.
three areas in the world. So we bring in finished goods from Asia, the UK, and um, Germany. So
Okay.
we bring the goods in. Most of them are completely finished. We do some light assembly here
Okay.
in my office. My bigger vision, my bigger vision is to ultimately be doing some engineering here and production here of engineering products. So we partner with OEM equipment manufacturers that are licensees of HP,
Okay.
and we bring those finished goods in, and then we have a private label product that comes out of Germany. So our our customer is a distributor of packaging equipment. So
Okay.
that's that next layer in between manufacturing and how does it get to the consumer. So we have distributors. We have over 73 distributors in the United States. We have 17 international in North America, Mexico, from Central America all the way down into South America. We're over in the Netherlands,
Okay.
the Benelux, there's Netherlands, Luxembourg, and Belgium, those three little countries there. We have distribution over there. We have distribution in the UK and Scotland, and all the way down into New Zealand, Australia. So we're a global company. I always say we're small, but we're huge
Yeah.
because what we do is we bring in these goods, we sell them to distributors that then sell them into the factories that manufacture the products you are a consumer of. Now, our industry verticals are food and beverage packaging. We always use that as an example because people can relate to it. We all eat and we all drink, right?
Right.
So when you look at this is a sport. What are these things called? Um, Electrolyte tablets, right? That you
Okay.
put your
Yep.
water. Okay. Well, they have that code right on the bottom of their capsule. People can relate to this.
Hmm.
But what you don't realize is everything that you touch has been manufactured somewhere. So
Hmm.
everything from pharmaceutical products, the blister pack that your Tylenol comes in, or the bottle that your Tylenol comes in, that's another industry that we serve. So we serve food and beverage, we serve pharmaceutical,
Okay.
nutraceutical being sport tabs and pet tabs and veterinary supplies and all of that. And then automotive,
Okay.
we actually signed General Motors right during the pandemic because General Motors went from printing all of the car parts to producing face masks. And every face
I
mask had to
remember
have
that.
a manufacturer's code on it, right?
That's
So
really cool.
yeah. So, and then into aerospace, we have a couple of aerospace companies that we deal with as well. But
Hmm.
the companies that you would be familiar with are distributors, service. This is funny. This is everything. Like when you think about what is touched, literally everything is touched by what we do. Um, our possibilities are endless as a company.
Right.
But one of our distributors, one of his big customers is Morton Salt. Everybody knows
Okay.
that little
Yeah.
blue Morton Salt box, right?
Yeah.
Well, we ship ink to them by the cases, right? And then another company would be Remington Armory. One of our
Okay.
one of our distributors, their client is Remington Armory, and they sell ammunition, but every ammunition box has to have a code on it.
That's cool. So, what are you going to be exhibiting at Pack Expo?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked. So, Pack Expo is the largest international packaging trade show that's
Hmm.
held in North America, and it's every year. This year, as I said, it's uh, the 11th through the 13th next week in Las Vegas, and we are showing a Lynx 10, which is our product that comes out of the UK. And it's
Okay.
an alternative, it's a CIJ or continuous inkjet. So there's different technologies. Megan, we have to do another show. Because there's
Done.
different technologies. And that technology, continuous inkjet, is usually very large equipment. And there's
Okay.
and there's bottles of ink and there's bottles of solvent and there's parts and mechanisms and it looks like a refrigerator most of the time, right?
Okay.
We have one that's made by the number one company in on the globe for CIJ equipment, and they've made a small unit that's about the size of a toaster, and you can easily remove it from one production line to another. And we love this product because it's great for craft brew. It's great for cosmetic industry. It's great for the pharmaceutical industry. So we're going to be showing the Lynx 10. We are one of three master distributors in the United States that carries this product. So we're excited to show that. We're showing we're debuting one new product line, and it's called the Moli, Moli, and it's just the
Okay.
brand. It's just the brand. But there's two product categories in that brand. There's the Mo Eco, meaning more economical, Mo Eco. So I
Hmm.
would call it sort of the entry into automation. Like if you're a new producer of product and you're trying to automate your production line and go from having people hand stickering barcodes or something like that,
Hmm.
that MoEco line is really, really nice. So we have a MoEco 2000 and a MoEco 4000, meaning half inch to 1 inch print, and the 4000 goes all the way from a half inch to 2 full inches of print height. So we talk in print height
Okay.
in our
Interesting.
industry. And
Well,
then,
do you
yeah,
have your booth number available too? Because I just
I
want
do.
people to be able to stop
Yes.
by and see
Oh,
you when they're
please
there.
write it down and come see us. And it's N for the North Hall. We're N9929.
That's
So
awesome.
if anybody comes to Pack Expo, come and say you saw us on Mavens of Manufacturing, and I'll have a special gift for you. And I'd love to have somebody come up and tell me that they heard about us there. But it's going to
I
be
would
an
love
exciting week.
I would love that too. And I'm so sad. I wrote an article for Packaging Digest earlier
Oh,
this
good for
week
you.
because I'm going to FabTech next week. So I'll be in Chicago next week, and I didn't realize that they were running at the same time until much later. And I was like, man, and everybody's going to Pack Expo. There's some people going to FabTech too, but it's just like, why couldn't they have like back-to-back weeks or something? And
I know there's so many shows going on all the time, but
yeah.
if anybody wants complimentary passes to the show,
Hmm.
you can email me and I will email you back. And my email is Lori, Lori, at Tourmaline Enterprises. So that's Tourmaline enterprises.com. Just let me know you need passes to the show. I'll send it to you. You get a free pass. Come see us at the booth. And then last thing is we are showing our private label product, which is out of Germany, and that's our T100 half-inch printer. So it's got a
Okay.
small footprint that packs a huge punch. We love it.
I'm so sad that I'm gonna miss you, but I hope you get a lot of traffic at the
Oh,
show
I hope
because
so too. And Megan, I'll send you passes for next year. We'll be in Chicago next year.
and that's right in my backyard. So I'm definitely going to that show because I live in Wisconsin right now and it's only like an hour away. So I'll be there for sure next year. But I do want to get into another question that I had for you because you did mention how you're homeschooling your grandkids and they come in sometimes and you have them doing things that's teaching them, soft skills. As a company though, what is Tourmaline doing to really bring awareness to the next generation about the manufacturing opportunities? Like, how are you connecting with your community members and making them aware of what you're doing within your facility?
That's a really great question. So, what we currently do is I'm involved with our local economic development consortium and the
Okay.
Manufacturers Council. And we frequently, throughout the year, will do programs at the high school level, at the middle school level. They have reach out that they do. I am always looking for students that, if they want to come and tour our facility, I'm always willing to sit down and talk to a student and talk to them about, you know, there are alternatives to college. Like there's alternatives to becoming a doctor or a lawyer or an accountant.
Mhm.
And some people, some kids love the fact that they can use their hands. They can go into AutoCAD, for example.
Mhm.
They can learn how to design product. Everything starts with an idea, right? And as long as kids are fresh with ideas, or they can figure out a better way to do something, that's what's going to keep us who are older moving forward, because we know we've got that younger generation coming behind us that want to keep producing and keep creating something in a better, more efficient way. And
Yeah.
I think that's the opportunity for young people, is to figure out how to keep doing it, but doing it in a better and more efficient way.
Yeah, and we can't really have that happen if we're not bringing awareness to them. And I had a conversation the other day, and this just kind of hit my heart a little bit, where I was talking to a woman about, how manufacturing and engineering have changed with more and more women entering into the sector. So when I started out in 2008 as a tech writer, the very first trade show I went to, I think I could count on one hand how many women I saw, and a lot of them were hired by the booths just to bring in traffic. They weren't really working with the companies or
Yeah.
doing anything with the companies. They were just there as like, hey, come here to the booth kind of thing, called booth bunnies. But it
Yes.
has changed, and there are a lot of women doing great things. And we started talking about World War II and Rosie the Riveters, and I've actually interviewed some of the Rosies. They're like in their 90s, and they told me about like why they did what they did back in that time. And some of them were really humble and just didn't realize the opportunities that they were creating for future generations. And I feel like, as as a woman in this sector, I have a lot of responsible paving that way for younger generations. And I know the older generations before me, they did the same. Like every generation, it is getting easier, and I do see improvements. I'm really excited about like where this sector is going to go. And you're doing a huge part by bringing students in, but also just influencing your grandkids in such a positive way.
Well, ultimately, I want to have a product that we produce. So when I said I'm a visionary, I see Tourmaline as being an overarching umbrella, and we have different companies underneath that. And one of those is, I would really like to be in food and beverage packaging and have production lines going, because what better way to test out new equipment and design new equipment than have your own facility that you're having to produce for, right? So I see that as a great opportunity to then bring in students from an intern standpoint, have
Yeah.
them working on the line, have them learning about product, have them learning about what gets product from design to the consumer. There's so
Mhm.
many steps along the way, but that production line, there's so much happening nowadays that the advancements in technology, these kids are just, it blows my mind when I go to this show and I see the robotics and I see things that are picking and placing and moving things, and the human doesn't have to touch it, but from the back end of it being very much computerized, and you know
Yeah.
that's the biggest part of what's happening in manufacturing right now. So I would love to have my own production facility and be able to offer that to the community by having students come in and learn.
Yeah, and that would be great for a community as well too, because that's just more jobs locally,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah,
that
and
we
it's
need.
it's like a workshop. It's like when mechanics go in and they apprentice with underneath a mechanic, what better way than to have a manufacturing company where kids can go in and apprentice and figure out what's going on and work in design and that sort of thing.
Yeah. Well, even current generations too, because as you said, you were like, I was 57 at the
Mhm.
time, and there's a lot of people changing their mind about their career pathways way later. I mean, I didn't figure out mine until like a few years ago. I was like, this is
Well,
what I'm passionate about. This is what I want to do. So I'm just going to do it. So, I
it,
mean,
it
there's,
is it's funny because I think I shared this with you before. I remarried a couple of years ago, and my current husband is a retired Marine, and he says to me all the time, "Wait a minute, when we first got together, you said, you know, well, you have this company, and every year your 10-year roadmap keeps growing another year."
he's
because
like,
my vision keeps getting bigger, right? So it
yeah,
gets bigger, and the plan goes further, and he says, I honestly don't think you're ever going to retire. And I go, I can't see it. you know I mean, I can't
that's
see it, and that's okay.
Yeah, that's like my dad. My dad is 77 and he's in manufacturing. We call him semi-retired, but he does consulting work now. So anytime like a factory or facility needs to like figure out where they're wasting time and where their
Oh yeah.
downtime is, and he'll go in and he'll talk about, where they can make some improvements so that things run more sufficiently. And it's really interesting to see how he works. But he's 77 and he's just like, I don't want to retire. I'm not ready.
There's
Like,
no
that's
point.
fine. Yeah. Like, if you enjoy what you're doing, I mean,
Yeah.
it's not necessarily work, I guess. Like, so why do you have to stop doing what you enjoy? I did want to pull up Bill's comment. He said the trades need these kids to join electrical, sheet metal, and piping and plumbing. Absolutely.
So
Like,
true.
even in our community, our plumbers are just overwhelmed right now because there's only two of them, I think,
Yeah.
in our community. And they try to collaborate with one another and help each other out, but sometimes they just get so overwhelmed. Like, and
Pipe
they're good paying jobs. They're good paying
pipe
jobs.
fitters and welders. I remember when I was a headhunter, I had a job requisition for an underwater pipe welder. Now, let me
Crazy.
tell you, talk about niche. And I always say the riches are in the niches,
Yeah.
right? And seriously, if you can niche yourself and you can really become an expert at something, you can another area where there's a huge shortage is espresso machine repair people.
I didn't
Think,
even know that was a thing.
come on. There's a coffee shop on every corner. There's a Starbucks on every corner. Those guys are making bank.
I
Yeah,
didn't even
think
know that
about
was a thing. Yeah,
yeah.
see, that's what I'm talking about. You don't know what's a thing. I couldn't
Yeah,
do underwater welding though. That's like really dangerous. I could
very
not.
dangerous. Very dangerous. But that's and I love your logo. I mean, I'm big on logos. You know what my logo looks like, and I'm
Yeah.
big on logos. I kind of had a marketing background, and I love it because I have keyed into Rosie the Riveter years ago because my mother went through the World War II era,
Mhm.
right? And when you think about women in manufacturing, it's not that unusual. I know when you said you went to your first trade show, it was like there were very few women, but when you really get into the factories, there's
Yeah.
a lot of women working in the factories, and I mean all the way to the C-suite level, because I listened to your interview with the gal who worked at Scott's Turf.
Mm-hmm.
Remember her? And
Yep.
she's right here in my community. So we've connected and,
That's awesome.
yeah, and I want to work with her. And there are a lot of women in manufacturing, more and more all the time. And it's really exciting to see. It's kind of like when you watch a football game now and you've got the color commentator and then you've got the gal down there with her microphone talking to the football players. Like we didn't see that 40 years ago. Trust me.
No, we
Didn't see it
didn't.
40 years ago, didn't see it 30 years ago, but somehow about 20 years ago, things started to change, you know?
Yeah. And
So,
I really think COVID did a huge favor for us because it forced us to go online. And that's really where I found a lot of my guests for Mavens. Like I just kept going and searching. And there were a lot of women on LinkedIn that were feeling like, oh my gosh, I'm the only person in my community that has gone through this. And I have a couple text messaging groups going on with a few women from different area. I really like your niches get riches. I think that's hilarious, and I'm going to steal that from
the
you and use
riches,
it.
the riches are in the niches.
The riches are in the niches. I'm going to steal that from you. But yeah, I mean, we've developed like mini tribes. So like if we're looking for help with something or like a business connection or a mentor or, research information, we can connect with each other and help each other in that regard. And, one of the things that I found surprising and I didn't really think about until it was brought to my attention, like women were not necessarily taught negotiating.
Right.
And a lot of women didn't think that they could negotiate their salary until like much later. So that was something that I learned from one of these groups. I was just like, wait a minute, I can negotiate and
Yeah.
go back and forth and actually get what I'm worth. So it's really been a blessing since
Yeah.
COVID to just
Yeah.
connect with
And
all
I
these
think,
great.
I think some of the other things that we don't really think about when it comes to women in manufacturing is that um, women bring so much to the table from a multifaceted standpoint, and I think men are appreciating that more and more.
Mm-hmm.
But interestingly enough, when my late husband passed away and I was kind of out there on my own, it was the men in our industry, the ones that I had a really good relationship with, that I could reach out to for mentorship and
Yeah.
support. And I appreciated those men who stepped up and said, "Look, Lori, you got this." Out of all the people that I know that are running, companies like yours, look, if you need anything, you call me, and they were really there for me. And then there was a nucleus of women out of the HP world that were also very, very supportive. And now 8 years later, they all say, "We knew you could do this," and I was like, "I knew I could do this. I knew I could do this. I just had to figure it out." And the thing that I think is really important to note, and this is kind of one of my biggest messages to everybody who's in business or in a position in a business of influence, is that being an entrepreneur, being a business owner does not always come with a handbook. There's a million books on the shelf. How do you know which one to pick up, right? So, one of my greatest gifts, I think, is that I know what my gifts aren't. I'm very clear on what I'm not good at. And what I'm not good at is so defined for me. And I was so clear on it. I was able to go out and find people who were good in those areas,
Mm-hmm.
and they could help support me so that I could focus on the things that I was really good at, right? Like building the vision and developing a team and that sort of thing. And I think when I think back on, the experience that I went through with losing my late husband to where I am today, people say, "Oh, you must have been so angry with him and all that." You have to let all that go. And
Yeah.
and what I realized was he didn't know where to go ask for help. Women are much more willing to ask for help than men. And
That's
so
interesting.
there was this facade that everything was okay, and the business was doing great, and the business was doing great, but we had 175,000 in uncollected receivables. So it's not that we weren't doing business, we just weren't collecting the money, right?
Yeah.
So so what I keyed into 4 years ago was a mentorship company, Cardone Ventures, and I'll tell you what, I am where I am today because of the fact that I have a team of people that I outsource to, if you will. We call them our strategic business unit, and
Okay.
I have experts in 5 areas. So I have an expert in finance, an expert in operations, people development, human resources, and marketing. So, 5 people that are experts that have been vetted for my company, and I am on the phone with them every week. I have meetings. I have growth meetings, managers growth meetings that I attend, and you have to always be wanting to grow and get better at what you do. And I
Yeah.
say that those people who are not outsourcing to a company like that are always going to be struggling on their own, right? And my
Mhm.
goal is to grow and scale this company and have an exit plan that isn't going to be, oh, what if my grandkids don't want the company? What if they don't
Yeah.
want the company? How do I exit out of here and keep myself whole, right? So I read books all the time. Sharon Lecter's book on Exit Rich for women, you know, fabulous
I'll have
book.
to read that. I'll have to read that because I think that's another interesting topic that I want to bring someone on for too is just, strategy for succession, especially if you don't have any family members that want to succeed after you, what you built, because it happens all the time. I
Happens
just
all.
I just talked to a gentleman who reached out to me, and he was looking for some help, and he was like, "Can you tap in your network?" Because he didn't have anybody to take over the business, and he's just like, I kind of think I'm done, and he's like, I don't want all that hard work to go to waste though. So I was able to connect him with some individuals, and I hope it works out with them, because that's not my expertise, but that is a major conversation to have, especially if you're in manufacturing. Like, if you don't have a family member, then who are you going to pass the
Well,
business
and
on to?
a lot of times your family members are not your best people.
Right.
I mean, in my case, I'm really blessed. I'm really blessed that like my daughter's really good at accounting, and then my
Hmm.
youngest daughter is in charge of our customer service department. She's brilliant, but she used to run a production manufacturing line, right? So she
Hmm.
had 17 people under her, and her customer service skills are bar none. But neither of them want to take over this company. They're both like, nah, no, we're not interested. So I'm like, well, you better train your sons because, but you know
I
what?
need someone.
But I can't build a company on a hope that my grandsons are going to want it. So there has to be strategy behind everything.
Yeah.
And without really mentoring with a great organization like Cardone Ventures, I would not know where to even begin. And they've really helped me build that roadmap for a 10-year exit strategy.
That's
Yeah.
cool. Well,
Yeah.
um, this has just been such a fun conversation, Lori. I feel like I could talk to you for hours just because of your personality and your energy, and I
Oh,
really like your passion. But I do want to pull up some last comments here. Hank said, I'll have a hard time retiring. I love what I do, especially if I can mentor the up and coming, which
we love that.
Hank,
Hey,
you're already doing that with your daughters, and I appreciate you swinging by every Friday or trying to and showing them every single guest that I have on here. And then a LinkedIn user, yes, the majority of men in this space are incredibly supportive, and I agree with that because I feel like the older generations would not have stuck with this sector if they didn't have supportive men in this sector. I know I wouldn't
yeah.
have if I didn't have my male mentors, because there were some hard days where I was just like, why am I still doing this? And they were like, snap out of it. You can do this. And then Hank said, my gals love all the ladies on LinkedIn. So happy for this influence in their world. So
Oh, that just fills my heart, right?
I'm glad. Yeah, they're so cute. I'm actually making plans with Hank to visit him, hopefully in the spring next year, and I'm going to do an interview with his daughters and talk about like some of their favorite guests from Mavens and just ask them questions about like
That's
what
so
they're
cool.
interested in.
I'd
Yeah.
love to know what Hank does. So, Hank, connect with me if you're out there on LinkedIn for sure.
So, Lori, I have one last question for you. If you had
Yeah.
an ask for our audience, what would your biggest ask be?
Oh my gosh. Like us on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. Make sure that you become aware of what all these little codes, how it impacts you, and demand that quality on your products. When you see something with the stickers come off.
Mhm.
So my biggest ask is that you just let your network know that you heard us on this podcast, and we would love to grow our listening audience as well and our viewing audience as well. So come see us at Pack Expo. Yeah,
So, yeah, and let's just give them that booth number. You said it's N for
and
the North Hall.
North Hall 9929. Yep,
Awesome. Well, thank you so
Tourmaline Enterprises.
Well, thank you so much, Lori. I really appreciate you taking the time, and I wish you all the luck and success at Pack Expo. I hope you have some fun. Hopefully, you have some time to do a little bit of gambling or see a show, because I mean that's what I would have. That's what I would do when I go
I
there.
think
I went.
I think at this stage of my life, I'm gonna sleep.
Oh, that's fair.
Because
That's
every
really
day
fair.
is long trade show days, and then I have dinners after, and then I go to my room and I sleep.
I've been to Vegas a couple of times, and I remember I would just bring like $10 or $20 with me and go play on a slot machine. And as
Yes.
soon as I lost it, or as soon as somebody was ready to go, I either was out of money or I would cash out and take whatever I made.
Good
I don't ever take a credit card with me, because I just feel like that would get me
bad
in
idea. Bad
some
idea.
trouble. Well,
Yeah,
thanks
so we're having
everybody
a
for. Go
big
ahead.
no, I was gonna say we're having a big team building dinner on Monday night, and then we've got dinners with customers, and so it'll be a fun time. It's always a fun time. Vegas
Yeah.
is always fun.
Well, fantastic. Thank you again, Lori. And to everybody that tuned in and had some comments, thank you for joining once again. Next weekend, we have a pre-recorded conversation, so I hope you can tune in to that next weekend. And I will be at FabTech next week, so if you're there, please let me know. I would love to meet up. I'm also going to Virginia on Friday for a presentation with a community college there, so tune in for that content. And yeah, just subscribe to our YouTube channel. Make sure you like and comment as much as you can. And I want to share a word from my sponsor. Mavens is powered by Industrial Strength Marketing, but we also are sponsored by Fresh Horizons. They are responsible for all of the cool Maven swag that you see that I wear. They're a mom and pop shop. So please go follow them as well, because they are dedicated and very passionate to what they do. And I appreciate everything that they do for me. So I hope everyone has a wonderful and safe weekend. And I'll see you next week again. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
This episode of Mavens has been sponsored by Fresh Horizons Group. Fresh Horizons Group is a family-run company that was founded on the premise of helping organizations and businesses better tell their story through high-quality branded apparel and promotional items. Freshen up your brand by contacting Fresh Horizons today at freshhorizonsgroup.com.